have to be a little careful about just calling everything he knows garbage.
Right.
That's not fair either.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. That is a good point. I know some guys that know him, and I might be. I'm trying to get myself to get out to Detroit um, to help with an event this summer, and so maybe I can connect with him, get him in the car.
That'll be an interesting one. It really would. And again, I have the same response that almost everyone else does when we see his videos. We're like, oh, what are you doing? But I think it would be interesting to see or hear his take on some of that stuff. And maybe he is fully invested in the Kool-Aid and believes.
Believes what he's doing.
But it would be good to know.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so you go to other classes, you do a lot of martial arts stuff. Do you have a martial arts studio?
I do. Right in Leicester. It's called the Dragon Gate Academy.
Cool.
We teach semi-traditional Chinese Kung Fu because me and my partners have a lot of experience and a bunch of stuff. So it's kind of hard to keep it sterilized or nothing. We just teach a bunch of stuff. And some students just like training in traditional stuff, forms, kind of. Some people want a little bit more of a robust training method. And luckily, me and my partners have enough experience to be able to provide that. So for a traditional school, I think, I hate saying this.
That's okay. Don't watch the show.
For a traditional school, I think we train on the self-defense side. In a lot of ways, it's really more of a combatives class anyway. And we have uniforms on and belts, but as soon as it comes down to laying hands on people in application, it's all a variation. The martial arts shifts from the traditional to the modern combative. A lot more greedy, a lot dirtier, a little bit more applicational, and certainly a lot more of the what ifs involved. Here's what works, here's what won't work. What works for me won't work for you. I've got students who are some women, some younger kids.
Yeah.
Their stuff, relatively big dude. So
I can the tattoo makes it scary as well.
That's part of my strategy, Because I can't really go with the gray man thing. So
right.
Maybe it's maybe people will stay away from me because I got some tattoos. That guy's dangerous. In the meantime, I'm like, how the hell do I get out of here? Right. But I try to teach in a way that makes me feel good. Just giving away stuff. And again, my point has always been, or my goal has always been to make sure people, when they are not in my presence, are a little bit better off in some way than they were beforehand. That's all.
That's cool. That's good stuff. How often do you work at the Kung Fu studio full time?
No, I'm a full-time soldier.
God bless you, man.
I'm a full-time soldier. So I'm a unit administrator for an MP company / operations in Seattle. So that's my daily job. 22 years in. God bless you, man. Looking at retirement on the horizon. Then maybe I'll do this stuff full-time.
That's cool. That's good.
It's 12:59 at Radio Free America.
When you grow up,
I'm at that point. A friend of mine was talking with one of her friends, and they're like, "What's the average? What's the average lifespan?" I'm like 75. They're like, "We're like 2/3 of the way down with life." Right? We're like, "Oh crap, that's not really how you want to phrase it."
Yeah, it's
how you want to say it.
You reach that hump, and now you're like, "Oh crap, I'm on the downside.
This is it.
What am I gonna do? I've only got so much time left."
Right. How was I thinking?
Yeah.
So you said you were at the when we talked the other day and messaged back and forth. You were at the Boston Marathon. You weren't running, were you?
Oh no, sir.
You were working?
No, I don't run unless I'm getting shot at.
Chased. I run when chased.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So the Mass National Guard works most of our public events.
Oh, cool.
Throughout the course of the year, so we get activated every year for that, just to assist with local authorities. I'm realizing now that we're speaking about this that I probably should have prefaced this entire conversation with my opinion. Mass National Guard, as a whole,
right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters.
All right. You just work for them, man. That's all.
I work with them. I don't speak for them.
I got plenty of people Plenty of people do that.
Okay. I don't. But the thing is, they're looking. Like if this goes online, I do something on YouTube or Snapchat or something, and I do something inappropriate or make a claim that could be construed as representative of government policy.
Right.
Someone might come have a conversation with me about it. So this is just Umar talking some
This
shit.
is just Umar talking some shit. That should be a podcast. Umar talking some shit.
Okay, I cannot be held liable or accountable for anything that comes out of my mouth during this time period.
That's all right.
Also, do not trust a word I said.
There you go. That's what he really wants to say. Don't trust anything he says. Don't believe a word he says.
Because I was some experience talking about that.
That's cool, man. That is cool. Cool. So what ranking do you have? How long? I never remember what the ranks are.
Yeah.
And I'm not a military guy, so I never know.
And they're different from branch to branch. So.
Yeah, and I can't.
I'm a sergeant first class.
I have Radio Free America. This is
Seven.
Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn.
High middle management. You know,
That's cool.
all I do.
That's all I
I used to be, it's interesting when you get higher up in rank, you have more experience. I think this happens everywhere, right? Corporate, you start moving away from actually getting the work done to making sure the work gets done.
Yeah.
So it's tough because inside I don't feel like an old man. Right? But my job has shifted towards old man things. Like I don't get to go kick doors in anymore. I don't get to go, I'm not the guy on top of the truck with the machine gun. I'm the guy
That's telling somebody.
back on the radio telling someone, hey,
Hey, get the machine gun
go
out.
shoot somebody with that machine gun.
Knock those doors
Right?
down too.
And then I'm taking reports and hey, how many rounds did you use? Anybody get hurt? That's my job now,
Oh my gosh.
which is good because it's that's kind of the way it's supposed to be. That's a young man's job. Young man's job.
It is.
But sometimes it's hard when you get away from it. You're like, I could still do that. So I teach you otherwise.
Right. We're not as young as we once were.
Oh yeah, I did that. I tried to get out. We go out and training. Go out the young bucks, and we'll do a ruck march and do some lane training in the woods and have some scenario stuff. And I'm like, why is all this stuff so heavy? Why is it so hot?
No kidding.
Stuff like that.
What are you going to get stories? More stories.
I got more stories.
What's your story?
Yeah, tell a story. So I used to. So again, just life takes you everywhere. So back in 2000. A friend of mine worked in bail enforcement. So I was already doing security stuff. So I got into bail enforcement. Right? Got my credentials, did some training, working with the team.
So like Dog the Bounty Hunter?
Not at all like that.
Okay.
These guys are actually professionals. Former cops or whatever.
Yeah.
And actually armed and not looking to try and create trouble. I got to Rhode Island.
I don't know what DJ's talking about.
This. We had a warrant. So the thing about bail enforcement, for those of you who don't know, is that the reason bail enforcement and bounty hunting works, the reason it's a thing, is because an individual has already been taken into custody, already been Mirandized, and either awaiting arraignment or been charged. So because that's already taken place, when a bail enforcement agent goes to collect them for defaulting, so when someone skips on a bond, when someone goes to pick them up, they're not re-arresting them. They take them into custody on a previous arrest. And that's what kind of offers bail enforcement agents the right, or by law, legal right to do that. It's a case called Taylor versus Tainter. So anyway, I got into doing some of that stuff for a couple of years. And that's all due respect to those guys, you have to do a lot of work to make a living doing that.
Sure.
Because it's always a percentage of the bond. If someone has a $5,000 bond, you might be getting a couple $500, might be $1,000, depending on how experienced you are, what your relationship is with the bondsman. So guys who do that for a living they're really good at it.
Yeah.
So we were going to pick up a guy in Rhode Island. It's on the second floor of a duplex, front entrance, back entrance. There's 4 of us. Normally we try to sneak up on people it's the safest way to pick up on them in transit someplace, you know, when they're in there, you know,
Not paying attention.
you know,
When they're out and about.
when they're out and about in between things. And so we couldn't get this guy because he was holed up. We go up to the apartment. Three of us go in the front door. One of our guys go out the back to the not fire escape, the stairs in the back. And this was early on in my doing anything with firearms, part of my life. So we go in to clear the living area. I approach the door that appears to be like a bedroom because I saw him bail in there, or somebody bail in there and slam the door. So without thinking about it, I approach the door right heads on, and like 4 rounds come through the door. And I'm talking right over my shoulder. And I throw myself to the side, and I'm like, holy shit. And then I hear a glass break inside the room. And one of my other guys who had the back door had taken a shotgun and pushed it through the window and pointed at the guy and had him get him down. The problem is, so we had notified the local authorities that we were going to be in that area trying to pick up a skip. And but when they heard the shots fired, all of a sudden, all the lights went on. Right, so now we have like 18 cruisers show up on us. And we're terrified now. We got this guy in custody. We're all armed. Right? So now, you know, luckily they didn't roll up on us and just start firing. We had everything put away. We had the guy in cuffs in the back of this guy's cruiser. Old cruiser we had. They had to take us. They took us all downtown. Check all our credentials.
Make sure everything was legit.
Yeah, make sure we did some nut jabs.
That's a little friendly.
It's a little wackadoodle.
Just a little bit. How long did you do this for?
I did that for about 2 years. On and off.
Yeah.
I was still working. They're like, hey, we got a guy, we're trying to go pick up with us, or we need someone to go sit on the house for a while.
So you're kind of like Mr. Incredible, right? You get this little office job, you go out at night, kick some ass.
Not a lot of ass kicking. The thing about those jobs is, you know, probably more so than being a cop, 98% of those jobs is making phone calls and following people around and going to
It's not
different
exciting.
places. It's
Not
not
exciting.
all
until it
cowboy
gets exciting.
shit, right? It's all.
That's a little nuts, man.
Yeah. So
That is a little
I
nuts.
tell you the 1 or 2 little excerpts out of a 2-year span of doing the job because that was the only exciting thing that happened. So
Right.
one other time we picked up a guy in Vermont, but there was nothing really to that. But that kind of led me towards doing more of that kind of work. So when I went back into the military, because I was out for quite some time, I went back into the infantry, was a forward observer, got deployed to Afghanistan with the infantry, and a whole bunch of experience over there. And when I came back, by then I was already in a very combative and firearms survival type of mindset, so it kind of stayed with me. That kind of shit doesn't go away. So I'm trying to use it.
Does it change much? Like I know I'm certified to teach refuse to be a victim class, and some of the stuff I think that's in that class is certainly kind of dated. You know, like they talk about remember the old things your grandparents used to have that they plug the TV into, so when they go on vacation, they put the timer on the lights.
I'm just
Right, so
going
now
into my
you can pull that
community
off
tab
an app.
and scheduling posts
Technology is.
Yeah, the
that
technology
are
certainly changed. I mean,
old
the ideas
Billy
haven't
Gunn
changed.
shows,
You know, make it look like you're home when
Yeah.
kind
it's
of
not
random
home.
ones
but-
that were.
Certainly the
interesting
technology
shows
changed
on
and how people do all that stuff.
Yeah.
So every
And there's
Thursday
nothing
these
paranoid
are
about it. You know, some people
reposted.
think it's overboard. You know, they're like, wow, why are you doing that? You know, it's because no one ever plans to be a victim.
Right.
You know, when you wake up in the morning, no one plans to leave their house and have their house robbed. No one plans on being in a car accident, right? These things happen. So it's no different than having insurance policy for your vehicle, right?
Yeah.
One time something does happen, you can be thankful you were ready for it.
Absolutely. And it just goes back to like what you talked about at the beginning of the show is having a plan. Having a plan, and then you got something to go with.
Yeah, being ready to enact something, you know, and also that things aren't linear, right? One of the things about active shooter response, that's the problem is that people say run, hide, fight, and they think it's in that order,
Right.
right? When it's really a spectrum, and you might find yourself in the fight environment of it. Right? There's no
Nicholas 59 of Radio Free America. This is
out
Sam.
and
Yeah.
self-defense isn't,
Right now, we've got a few words.
self-defense isn't like what you see in videos. People, very, very rarely are you confronted by an attacker. They don't tend to brandish weapons. If someone shows you their weapon when they approach you, they probably didn't intend to hurt you. They want something from you, right? Unless there's some kind of sociopath, and part of what they want to do is inflict fear, and they're trying to get that response because something inside of them, right? But somebody approaches you and brandishes a weapon, they probably wanted something from you. If someone wants to hurt you, they're just going to hurt you, right? They have a gun and they want to kill you or kill people, they're just going to do it. They're not going to make sure you see them do it,
Right.
right? If they have a knife and they walk up to you and show you the knife, it was because the threat was more important at that point, right? If someone decides they want you dead, you're not going to see it. It's going to be prison style. They're going to roll up on you, and the next thing you're going to feel is,
Wow. That's wild. Yes, so someone's going to, they're not going to give any signs. They're not going to give any tells if they're going to attack you.
I think most often self-defense scenarios
The chair is against the wall.
are having
The chair is against the wall.
someone's going to stalk you, or you're a target of opportunity. But even still, it takes a certain kind of person to choose a target of opportunity to purposefully kill them. That's a specific portion of society, specific demographic of society, right? So, if you see the weapon, you probably didn't want to kill you. That doesn't mean don't be prepared to defend yourself. When that's going to switch, right? Someone draws a weapon, a gun, that's on you to make some quick decisions about what's going to happen next.
Right.
Often, in my opinion, if they draw it, they just start pulling the trigger. If you have time, there's something else there.
That's really interesting. That's really interesting. All right, listen, we're almost where we need to be. Anything else you'd like to tell the viewers?
If you're in the area, Close Countermeasures offers quarterly workshops in active shooter planning and response. We also do combatives and defensive tactics. If you're a firearms person, there's a lot going on in the area. The most important thing I say to people is, the best way to combat fear is to be trained. Right? Training leads to competence. Competence leads to confidence. Confidence fights fear.
Very cool. So, how can people find?
CloseQuartersCountermeasures.com.
Yep.
I've got the Close Quarters Countermeasures on Facebook. Often posting videos.
Say it a little slower. What did you say?
It's such a mouthful. So I've been told that. I probably should have chosen a little bit better.
Dude, this is yeah. Somebody told me I got writing shotgunwithcharlie.com. They're like, that's a long thing. I'm like, I know. I didn't think about this.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I had no idea it would work.
My sister told me I should just buy CQCM.com and just route it over, but it's CloseQuartersCountermeasures.com.
Close Corner
And
Countermeasures.
Close Quarters Countermeasures on Facebook.
All right.
Yep.
Do you want to plug the
May 23rd? Monday, May 23rd is our first active shooter response planning and response workshop that's taking place Monday at Jaguar Gymnastics in my martial arts studio that's in that facility.
Cool.
And it'll be the first one since COVID.
Since COVID, very cool. I'm planning on coming. When Mark sent me the link to the Facebook event, I swear to God, it said active kicker.
I sure hope not.
Active kicker, like
That's a whole different class.
Right. Active kicker. This is what he's okay. Active kicker. Oh well. So do you want to plug that?
That's the Dragon Gate Kung Fu Academy is at Jaguar Gymnastics, and that's where we teach our traditional martial arts, weapons. It's a Chinese-based system, still pretty heavy combatives-based approach to self-defense and application. So
Yeah.
Traditional in method, modern in training.
Nice. Well, I got to say that both my kids took some gymnastics classes at Jaguars, and I think my son bent his leg and my daughter bent her arm. They get a lot of that from their father.
It's really possible. I mean, it's amazing how many people, they think training in a martial art is so dangerous, and then they sign their kids up for basketball, football, soccer.
Oh my gosh.
And their kids are in the hospital a couple times a year. I have not had a kid in the hospital in 15 years. We fight in my classes.
As a guy who's an instrumental music teacher, when kids come in with a jammed finger, I look at them, I'm like, let me guess, basketball? And they're like, how did you know?
Yeah.
So kids don't hurt themselves when they play band instruments.
Right.
The only thing that really hurts is your ego.
Yeah, definitely. You're only ever competing with yourself.
Right. Anyway, Umar, thank you so much for being on the show.
I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
The pleasure was mine. I'm going to give you a riding shotgun and a gun gram sticker and patch.
Awesome.
So you can put those someplace. Very cool.
Absolutely going on my stuff.
Awesome.
It's a great time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys for watching the show. Thanks, Umar, for being on. If you are not a member of the Second Amendment Foundation, you need to go to saf.org and become a life member. It's only $150 for a life member at Second Amendment Foundation. You can also donate at CCRBKA, the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms. You can watch all of your pro-freedom podcasts in one place at the Self-Defense Radio Network, sdrn.us. Thank you guys for watching the show. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can watch the show on YouTube, on Gunstreamer, on the OpsLens app, and on Full 30. I think Full 30 is changing their name, but we'll get that all updated. We'll put links for that. And again, man, thank you for being on the show. This is great.
Take care, everyone. Be safe out there.
Talk to you soon.
I don't know how long this will take me to finish now. I might as well continue since I got all this shit open. Oh, you don't like watching silence? All right, I guess I can understand that. I guess there's other things you could be doing. This is the exciting things you do. Somebody who has a podcast, I guess. I guess I'd go see if there's something else to listen to from somebody who wouldn't care if I work it like this. What was that one? That one was 15? Oh, man, I'm good. So let me go back over to this and we'll see what else I can find. Oh, I'm logged into a weird channel. I don't know what I'm going to find over here. There's this. Somehow it's given me stuff from there. Interesting. How about if I refresh? Now it'll give me stuff from the channel I'm logged into. Let's listen to this one.
So fat. Brendan, you're not fat. It's the shirt.
Jesus.
Look at me. History classic. What's up, solutionaries? We got some great news. As you know, the solutionaries have all kinds of classes, skills, trades, firearms, safety, conflict resolution, Spanish, sewing, homeschooling, phlebotomy, right? We are certifying people to get jobs in phlebotomy. The sister Amira, who does this work and has been doing it for some time, she has a course and she's using the Solutionary Center to do that. We did a class we certified a few weeks ago. We certified a solid amount of folks that are now going to be able to be in the job market because of that skill set. And we posted it on social media as we do with all of our classes. Amira hit me up and told me she's got about 150 people lined up and set up for the next particular class. So this is a good problem because each one of the students needs about $100 in materials, whether that's the arm, the needles, books, all that other good stuff. So we at the Solutionary Center are going to raise that money for the class. We want to make sure that all of our classes, every single portion of it is free to all. How can you help? Let's see, 150 people, $125 a piece. It's a lot of money. So saying that to say, we want everybody over this entire week donate $125. We're going to take Amira a bunch of money so she can purchase all of the books and materials for all of the students. Why this is important? During this last year or so, we've seen a spike in people needing to get their blood drawn. Now, say what you want about testing for COVID, testing for whatever, getting blood drawn to see what it is. Say how you feel about that. There is an economy based on the skill set that people can gain. That's our reason for doing it at the Solutionary Center. We would love to have had a hand in about 150 people getting gainful employment in an industry that's, to be perfectly honest, in need right now. So saying that to say, we want to make sure that we remove all of the financial barrier to entry for all of our students, for every class. The phlebotomy skill set is definitely needed. On average, it's about $100 and $125. We want to create room that as more people sign up, we don't have to fundraise as much, so we'll have a little bit more room. So we're asking everybody. We got a big goal, $125, about 150 people. Let's hit that number this week so we can do a whole presentation, give it to Sister Amira, who doesn't charge for these classes, just like we don't, by the way, and we can add on to getting 150 jobs. So if you got 125 bucks, go to gibsongo.com/solutionary. Give to these efforts so we can give you a shout out on all of our social media platforms. If you want to register for any of the classes at the Solutionary Center, go to solutionarylifestyle.org. Register, come learn, come share, come teach a class if you want to. Contact us by email, solutionarylifestyle@gmail.com. But this week, 150 folks, $125 each for the folks. Get them through their course, get them their materials, get them in job placement services. This is how we build community. All right, thanks again, you guys. Make sure you hit the website, gibsongo.com/solutionary. Be safe, be solution.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
What does being healthy mean to you? The WHO.
Some people, $125 ain't nothing, and then that gets somebody a class. It's pretty cool. I'm assuming phlebotomy is one of those gateway occupations, gets people into the medical, or gets people to see some medical and go, oh no, that's not for me, which is, I think, just as good. Hate to see somebody put a whole bunch of effort into getting behind, investing in a medical occupation and then finding out, ooh, I hate medical, but now I got to do it. And then they're just not pleasant, not happy individuals. 13. So kind of cool. EMT, I think, would be another good one. I don't know if anybody's out here. Is anybody out here? No. For the last week, I've been looking into black powder revolvers, thinking about getting one. That's a whole thing, but they're thing. If you want them, if you want to get into them, it's worth getting into them. My daughter took that. She's a CNA, corporate narc assistant. That's messed up, dude. I would have encouraged her to do a different job than being a corporate narc assistant. At least be the head corporate narc. But whatever, man. I don't live in Washington. I don't know what happens up there. Guess I go find something else to listen to. Is there anything else good? Let's go find out. Oh, you know what? I'm on this channel, so I only know what's on this channel sub list. This one was from March of 2019. Don't remember where I was. October 13th. All right, now I'll go over here, see what's on plain old YouTube. Why is it showing me my own thing? That's weird. That's the Riding Shotgun we were just listening to. Go look on the subscription tab. Anything worth listening to here? Looks like I'm not subscribed to, what's the name of that place? The Reload? I haven't listened to that show this week.
An assassination attempt against the sitting Supreme Court justices for the conversation that more on this episode of the podcast. All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Weekly Reload Podcast. I'm your host, Stevie Gutowski. I'm also the founder of TheReload.com, where you can head over and check out our membership options today if you want to get exclusive early access to this here podcast and the opportunity to appear on the show in a member segment, as well as access to hundreds of members-only pieces of that focus on analysis of firearms policy and politics. This week we have a great guest who's been on the Hill reporting for decades now, John Bresnahan from Punchbowl News is a co-founder over there at the relatively new and exciting publication that's got a lot of great traction. Welcome to the show, John. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So, there's been a lot of news out of the Hill lately on guns because the reaction to the Uvalde shooting has generated some real bipartisan talks on potential legislation that we haven't seen really probably since Sandy Hook in 2013. So what have you been hearing the overall state of play is right now? How close are they to a deal?
On the Senate side and the House, of course, passed a bunch of gun bills, including today. They passed a national red flag law today in the House. So that's not going anywhere in the Senate. On the Senate side, there's been a group of about 10, 11 senators talking, for both parties, talking about a series of gun laws, new gun laws, new gun programs. This is led by, on the Republican side, led by John Cornyn of Texas. On the Democratic side, it's led by Chris Murphy of Connecticut. And then there's a core, kind of what we're calling the core four group. There's Kristen Sinema from Arizona, a Democrat from Arizona. She's part of this group. Tom Tosa of North Carolina. So those four basically working with as well. This is kind of what we do in the Senate now. We do gangs. The community process is not really effective as much anymore. So they do gangs. The senators come together from both parties if they're interested in the issue. So but it's really Murphy and Cornyn leading it. Murphy, of course, has been one of the leading gun control advocates since Sandy Hook, and he's big on this issue. Cornyn, of course, has a long history on guns, on gun rights issues. Going back to his days in the state of Texas. So he has pushed on suppressors. He's pushed on reciprocity, on concealed carry
Concealed
reciprocity. Yeah, so he's pushed on this issue. So, you know, and he did the last round of any kind of real gun legislation we did in 2018. We did some enhancements to NICS, the national fixed NICS legislation. So, but on this legislation, they're talking, you know, it's hard to say. You know, you and I were chatting before we started. I mean, I go back, like you said, I've been doing this, I've been on the Hill every day since 94, which first started coming up on 92. I mean, I go back to Columbine. I go back to, you know, the debates after that. I go back to, you know, the assault weapon in 94. So, you know, but since that time, you know, Congress, despite a number of, you know, attempts, there's been very little actual legislation at all on guns. You know, the last one being fixed NICS. So, you know, like you
This
said,
guy say
after,
you know more
after
often?
Sandy Hook,
Come on,
you know,
man.
there was Manchin Toomey bill, and there was a lot of debate on that. I actually got on the floor. There was debate, got to the judiciary committee, but it didn't get 60 votes. So this is the biggest push since then, definitely in a decade, to get some kind of gun legislation, the bipartisan gun legislation, but both sides can agree on.
Do you think that it's going to even get that far as Manchin Toomey did with an actual written bill that they vote on? What's your feeling right now?
I do think they will.
What's this in regards to? I already have the business with T-Mobile. Yeah.
But I mean, it's like,
By the way, T-Mobile is garbage. That's why I didn't give them any insight. That's garbage.
good question. If they, I do think they'll draft something. You know, they're trying to come up with a framework, quote unquote, by today. I don't think that's going to happen. Or if they do, it'd be some kind of gun legislation, the bipartisan gun legislation, that both sides can agree on.
Do you think that it's going to even get that far as Manchin Toomey did with an actual written bill that they vote on? What's your feeling right now?
I do think they will. But I mean, it's a good question. If they, I do think they'll draft something. You know, they're trying to come up with a framework, quote unquote, by today. I don't think that's going to happen. Or if they do, it'd be very tentative and very fluid, and just maybe, you know, agree to a vote, you know, continue talking, that kind of stuff. But they want to get, you know, I was talking to Dick Durbin and said Judiciary Committee Chairman yesterday about this. You know, Democrats feel strongly that, you know, there is momentum to do something, the time to do something is now. They would like to do something in the Senate before the Senate adjourns for the July 4th recess in a couple of weeks. They'd like to do it. This is the window that they'd like to do it. Momentum is there. And everybody watched that hearing yesterday in the House, you know, with the poor little girl from Uvalde and the parent. I mean, it's just horrific. Right? Everyone can't possibly watch that and not say, you know, not be affected by it. So there is a lot of sentiment on both sides to do something. Again, I don't know if it'll come. You know, my sense is, you know, you know, I'll believe it when I see it. Let me put it that way. It's you know, when I see a bill and they're like, okay, we're going to vote on it, I'm like, okay, well then maybe I actually believe it. Up until that time, I just have a hard time believing they're actually going to do something.
Yeah, I mean, certainly there's a lot of incentive to not do something, or at least there's just such a wide gap between what Republicans and Democrats feel are the proper solutions to these sort of attacks, right?
Yeah.
That it's hard to find a middle ground. Now there may be something that they do come to an agreement on, and I guess we should go through just real quick what exactly they're really considering, because from what I've heard and from what some of the senators have said publicly, Cornyn, Tillis, Graham, Murphy, and from what some of my sources are saying, it seems that adding juvenile criminal records to the background check system is one thing. I don't know if that. I'm not aware of that.
We can dig into that a little further, because that's it. That would be a big change to the federal justice system broadly, because there's a long tradition in this country we don't use juvenile record against you, or we limit it. There's been a big debate on that.
Right. Yeah. I guess there's a lot in terms of the details of what that
I would.
Some states add some juvenile records if they're serious enough.
Right.
Yeah. I guess I would imagine that's something that's going to be very complicated to get through.
Yeah, I think
if they can, but that's something Tillis has mentioned
that has
explicitly.
been Jeff, that is on the table. The other big piece of this would be a red flag law, but mainly it's going to be incentivizing the states to do something else. I mean, it's 19 states in the District of Columbia have red flag laws in place. They went on to incentivize the state. Now, the House passed a national red flag law today. That's not going to go. That's not going to pass. So
that's very different.
Yeah.
That would allow federal courts to issue these temporary restraining orders that seize people's guns instead of state courts.
That's not going to happen in the Senate. So what they and Blumenthal has worked a lot on this issue with Lindsey Graham on the on a red flag program, an incentivizing program. Another big piece is mental health funding. What they're talking about. There's a bill or a program actually in place already, was set up by a bill by Senator Ward Blunt of Missouri and Debbie Stabenow of Michigan. This operates in 31 states already. They would expand that to cover all 50 states. We're talking roughly $7 billion over 10 years, so $700 million. Some of this would have to be offset. That's a pretty significant amount of money. I mean, it's not huge in terms of a multi-trillion-dollar federal budget, but it's a significant amount of money. So that's a big piece of that.
And that seems like something that would be less controversial. Although I do wonder, so there's those three things, and then I guess what about Grassley's Eagles Act, where it's the Secret Service Threat Assessment Center being used for school shooting assessments?
I haven't heard that specifically. I know Grassley is pushing on that. I know other Republicans are pushing on that. They are talking about school security issue. I think that would be something, if they did take that bill and put it into this package, that would attract support from the Republican side, which I think would be neat. And I think one thing to really watch here is, and honestly, I see some of the coverage, and I think people have to be careful. I don't think the threshold is 60 here for Cornyn, because he needs 10 Republican votes. But I really
he wants a majority of the Congress.
He really they feel strongly about this. I mean, this is a guy who wants to be leader. He wants to be a Republican leader down the road. And we talk. This is a guy who is an expert on this issue. He's an expert on gun policy. He cares very deeply about his own personal level. He's concerned about the Second Amendment issue on this. And he's concerned about, if you look at the Senate Republican Conference, there's Mitch McConnell, he stands alone, but he's also 80 years old. And, whereas guys want to succeed. There's John Thune, and John Barrasso finally. Barrasso is the number 3 Senate Republican. He's not, I don't care what it is, Barrasso's not going to be for any gun bill. He's not going to vote. So this is an issue for Cornyn. The thing now is, where does Thune go? Would Thune be on any kind of deal? Thune's in re-election. He's gone through his primary, but he's in re-election. So I think they would want to get Thune on board. So I think they're going to have to get this through this, to kind of thread this needle, if you would. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult on the Republican side. Yeah.
Hasn't that been a rule from McConnell that putting up bills for a vote, you have to have a majority of the Republican caucus back when he was the majority leader?
Yeah, I mean,
Isn't that something that he was?
It depends on the issue. Look, he didn't on debt ceiling, for instance. That was a huge issue, and that was an issue he felt strongly about. They didn't on the infrastructure bill. They got a bunch of bills, but they didn't get a majority. But I think I think in this case, this is Cornyn is kind of driving this on policy-wise, and I think the politics of this are very particular for Cornyn. And I do think Cornyn doesn't, every Republican is concerned about this issue and where they stand on this issue, where they're seeing actually on it. Because gun rights groups, you deal with them all the time. I've dealt with them for a long time. The gun rights groups and the people who are lobby on this issue or are advocates on this issue, they don't mess around. They take this very, very, very seriously. This is not an issue where any Republican has to be pretty careful on this issue because these groups and the people who are, that you're talking to, your audience, they're pretty serious on this issue and they're zealous about this issue. So, he's concerned, I think, about getting out on a limb and not having, maybe he passes a bill here, but in the long term, he impacts his own.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
One more, just on the specific policy aspects. One more thought is, so part of this House package, kind of the only part that got any real bipartisan support was this, basically a report from DOJ on the background check system and the demographics of people who get denied when they go to try and buy a gun. Do you think that's?
I haven't heard
that
that.
got almost a lot of support in the House.
I haven't heard that. That could very well be part of that. I know that has been raised by at least one senator. I have not heard that. The other thing that has been talked about and was in the House package was raising so I don't think it would go anywhere in the Senate. Cornyn doesn't support it, but there is a surprising amount of support on the Republican side, at least to look at it. I mean, that's kind of
really
surprised. Well, I've been surprised. Lisa Murkowski, Joni Ernst, said she'd look at it. It doesn't say she'd support it, but she'd look at it. So, I was kind of surprised. McConnell indicated he would kind of be open to that. I just think that I don't think that'll be part of it, but I do think that it's definitely been under discussion.
That's the new wrinkle this time around, I guess, is as far as policy suggestions go, is instead of banning AR-15s outright for everyone, the suggestion now is to raise the age of when people can buy them, similar to how we treat handguns. This was something that Florida did after Parkland, and so it's not unprecedented for Republicans to support a policy like that.
No, and then in the case of both the Buffalo and Uvalde shooters were teenagers, so
right.
Alleged shooters, they're teenagers, and so I think there is. I mean, I'm not saying it's there. I mean, it's saying it's. I was surprised a little bit. I thought this would never go anywhere in the Senate Republican Conference. I'm not saying it will, but I'm kind of surprised that there's been more openness to it than I thought. I don't think this would be the final package if that ever comes together, but it's definitely has been on the table. McConnell,
that's interesting.
McConnell signaling that he was open to it a little bit. That was interesting to me.
Yeah.
Cornyn is not. Cornyn does not want. Cornyn is not interested in this at all.
I don't see it.
I don't see it either, but I was just kind of surprised. I was a little surprised about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that people would be surprised that Florida passed.
Yeah.
Florida's a red state, becoming more red, probably even more red than it was back in 2018 when it passed those reforms. But that was something that we talked about here at the Reload, where what are the possible reactions? Well, Texas is politically similar to Florida in a lot of ways. Maybe it'll do the red flag law and the age restrictions that Florida passed after Parkland, although it seems that's not getting anywhere in Texas at this point. But it is a new wrinkle. This is something that's a little bit different policy variation from what we usually the debate is, as you know well, over universal background checks and assault and bans, total bans on sales, and then some debate over whether they should try to a mandatory buyback or confiscation. But
Well,
now the debate's
I do think the age thing is, that's kind of morphed into the background checks looking at juveniles, and
Yeah.
because there's clearly seems, it sounds like from what I'm reading, and I haven't reported this myself, from the Uvalde shooter, there was a lot, there certainly seems to be some evidence of disturbing behavior.
Yeah, although I haven't seen any reporting. I wonder if it's this issue
All right.
started right
So
away.
that
this was part of
is how much of
the
this reload?
denial.
About a third of that reload show. All right, that's what I needed to do. Well, I didn't need to, but I decided to do while I was listening to the other thing, and I had no idea how long it was going to take, and it ended up taking about an hour. So what I thought was going to take a half an hour took more like an hour. All right, well, and that's the thing you can do. Go through your old posts, things that you've already done, your archive of content, and sort through it in some way. Find the things that are interesting, maybe a playlist or just highlights from your work, and then go to your community tab and take some time like this when you're listening to something or dealing with something or watching something or whatever, and make posts that are scheduled for the future. So now on this channel, the Daily Gun Show channel, every Thursday at 3 p.m. for the next year, for the next 30 weeks, I guess, the rest of the year, there'll be a highlight, a thing that posts that when the show was posted and kind of a link back to the show for people that might be interested, and for those robots out there that are watching everything that happens on the internet. Mechanisms are designed to be operated, so we can operate these mechanisms, or we can be useful gears in the wheels. So thanks for watching. DJ's posting the links for the Senate if you're interested in what your representatives are doing and want to let them know your opinion on it. It's always a good idea. Contact the Senate website there, and then the phone number is right there, and then you can call them, and then robots will connect you right to them, and then you'll either talk to one of their aides or their answering machine robot. All right, thanks everybody for showing up. I guess we'll use a commercial here at the end.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.
This episode, nobody beats the house.
Thank you for supporting our projects. If you'd like to buy us a cup of coffee, check out our Patreon channel.
The guys and gals at gunwebsites.com encourage you to take a CCW class every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thank you for watching gunwebsites.com. Do 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 do.